take in a lot of problem horses to be fixed, and I take in quite a few young horses to be started. I kind of want to go through today some of the stuff I do with both the problem horses and the young horses. If I have a horse that comes in that has problems, or I have a young horse that comes in to be started, I just go through the same things anyway. Usually, most times people have problems with the horse. It is actually a symptom that you're dealing with, a symptom of a problem. And so I go through and try to address all the very beginning of what those problems might be. This is a 3-year-old warm blood stallion I've been working with for a while. I've been starting him. He's very suspicious sort of a horse, kind of insecure sort of horse, worries a lot about a lot of things, and he's getting much better about it. But so I'll kind of go through with him today and show you what I do with them. You know, starting young horses or the problem horses, usually the first thing you do is getting them not be worried about you. And so horses are usually worried about 3 things. They're worried about sensation, something touching them. They're worried about things that move, and they're worried about things that make noise. And just like teaching children at school, we don't try and teach complex things all at once. We try to teach little things. So the first thing, say he was a really wild horse that hadn't been handled, I would make sure I could rub him all over. Well, he'd been handled a little bit before I got him, so that really wasn't an issue. So the first place I started working on him, which is the first place I usually start working on most horses, because usually they've been handled enough to be touched all over, is I get them used to things that move. Like I said, horses are scared of things that, sensation, things that move, and things that make noise. So this actually is 2 things going on here. He gets the sensation of that going over him, and it's a movement, okay? This is usually probably the first place I start, and I had a number of older, 10, 11, 12-year-old competition horses this year that had problems. And so I went back to the beginning, and guess how many of them were scared to death of that? Every single one of them. Okay, and that's the first place I would start with anything. That wasn't their only problem, but some of them were spooky at things. They were spooky at banners or signs or tractors or whatever. I guarantee you, if your horse is spooky about this, he's definitely going to be spooky about a tractor or a sign or a banner or something bigger. So anyway, he's pretty good with that. So everything's just a progression. So I start out, like I said, with things that move. Then I go to something similar, but I add more to it. So this thing moves the same as that one. It moves, but it makes noise. And I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a whooshing, whipping sound. Now, a lot of horses, the only time they hear this noise, and in case you can't hear it, I'll bring it over here so you can hear that noise. Most horses, the only time they ever hear that noise is when their owner got mad at them and decided to give them a good flogging because they wouldn't do whatever, you know what I mean? So I want to make sure that he's good with movement. Come here. He's good with movement and he's good with noise. Once he's good with that, then the next thing I'll go to is a lot more noise. Oops, movement and noise. And I'll start over here, and eventually you start moving towards them and get to where you can go really close to them and down beside them like that. Now if you look at his expression was no different when I was doing that than when I was doing this, even though it's a bigger, scarier thing. See, horses tend to assume that noises have something to do with them. Tractors, chainsaws, lawnmowers, whatever those loud noises are. So you start out trying to prove to those horses this noise has nothing to do with you. If these guys over here working right now started up the tractor, no one would go, oh my God, he's going to run over with the tractor. Okay? You know the tractor has nothing to do with you, so it's just a noise. Horses don't necessarily know that from the beginning, so you have to kind of teach them that. But anyway, I want them to be pretty good about quite a bit of noise. So this stuff is referred to as desensitizing. Meaning, this is now right there, okay? So see he moved right then? So what I'm not going to stop doing right now is stop doing this. Because if I stop doing this when he moves, I have taught him that if I do this and he moves, I'll stop doing it. I'm going to wait till he stops moving, then I'm going to stop doing it, okay? And that's how we teach all that stuff. So I'm glad he moved right then because, think about spooky kind of horse like Arabs. Arabs are quite spooky, quite aware of a lot of things, and they're very easy to taught to be spooky because the owner goes, I'm going to scratch my head, and the horse spooks and they go, oh sorry, did I scare you? If I do something that scares them, I'll keep doing it until they stop moving, and then I'll take it away. Now, I don't want them to think that they should move when I make a noise. But if you started out with a scared horse and started out trying to get them used to this, you would never get them used to it because it's too big a thing. You want to get them used to this first, and then you would work your way up. So we start out with a lot of what we call desensitizing, meaning none of this stuff means anything. I want to have that initially to where stuff doesn't mean anything. Once they're good with that, then we start working on things that do mean stuff. There's one more desensitizing thing I might do with him here. I don't know how he'll handle it, but hopefully he will, because it's a nice windy day. I'm going to work in with this plastic bag. Can somebody give me an example of something bad a horse would do? A bad habit or a bad thing they would do? Anybody? Bucking. Okay, so why do horses buck? Horses buck for one or two reasons. Horses buck because something scares them so much that they lose the plot, or somebody asks them to do something and they go, it's a form of resistance. It's like, don't tell me what to do. I've had some of the horses I had this year were supposedly bucking horses. Going through all this stuff before I ever started riding got rid of the bucking. One of the ones I had was he would buck because you'd ask him to do something he didn't want to do, and that was his way of protesting. You don't really get rid of that sort of bucking with this part of it. This part gets rid of the, I'm scared so I buck. When we get to asking him to move, then we'll get rid of the I'm not doing what you want, so I'm going to buck and protest. So I've done all that desensitizing. Then I would want to desensitize him with this plastic bag, and even though I've done this with him, I'm going to start at the beginning with him because it's a windy day, there's a lot of people, it's a bit different for him. But whenever I start working with a horse, teaching them to get used to something like this, I always start going away from them. Anybody here ever been trail riding? Been trail riding? Ever had someone's dog chase you while you're trail riding? They're big and tough, aren't they? When they're chasing you. If you turn that horse around, you chase them, they're not that big and tough after, are they? You know, when you're running away from the dog's big and tough. When you go towards the dog, you're not so big and tough. Okay, so everybody, including us, horses, dogs, they're all more confident about things when they're going away from them. So when I introduce the plastic bag, I introduce it to them going away from him. It's not actually threatening him. So he gets to observe what the bag looks like, he gets to observe that noise, he gets to observe that movement, but it's not actually coming towards him. When I'll do this until they're following me pretty good, and then I'll keep the same rhythm up, and I will go backwards, like this. So it's a bit closer than it was, but it's still gone away from them. And then what I'll do, when they're walking forward, good, just watch this. I'm going to stop and see he just walked forward and placed his own head under the bag. I have a series of clips, training clips on Facebook and on YouTube, and there's one on there of this horse the first day he saw the plastic bag. It's pretty entertaining because he was pretty scared of it. Now, I'm facing the wrong way to do this because right now, if he goes to sniff that, it might slap him. So I'm going to point this way so the bag blows away from him. So when I start, if you haven't seen that clip, I'll give you a quick demo of how we do that. So when I start bringing the bag towards him, as soon as he looks at it, I'm going to take it away. I want him to think he has some control over the bag. If it gets too much for him, all he has to do is look at it and it'll go away. So I bring it around and he looks at it, I'll take it away. That's kind of how you introduce these kind of horses to that sort of thing. He's done it enough before where I'm just going to hold it there and he's probably going to sniff it. And it's no big deal. So this horse has been used to me throwing the rope over him. I can whip that whip on the ground, I can whip the whip on the ground out here, I can whip the whip down beside him, I can do the plastic bag over here. So there's no reason I shouldn't be able to take this plastic bag and go down beside him. Like that. So, like I said, this is a 3-year-old warm blood stallion who is a very, very, very suspicious sort of creature. It has taken a lot to get him that good at that stuff. But if you're going to ever, like this horse might be a jumping horse or something later in his life, he's going to have to go a lot of places where there's a lot of flapping things and a lot of stuff that they could spook at. So I want to make sure he's well prepared for that. Now, this part of the stuff is called desensitizing. If you do too much of this and not enough of the other part, you have a horse that's really, really quiet and nothing bothers him, including you. Meaning, my horse, nothing bothers him at all. I can't get him to walk or trot, he just sits there and looks at me. So that's not good. So The next thing we start working on is sensitizing, meaning getting him to move when I ask him to move.